Hey everyone, welcome to this video on project manager interview questions on people management. This part of our ongoing series designed to help you prepare with confidence for real world interviews. In this section, we'll go through 10 commonly asked questions for software project managers, complete with answers, explanation, and interview expectations. Let's dive into the first question. How do you motivate a team? This could be your answer. At my previous job, I led a team that seemed disengaged and motivated. My task was to boost morale and increase productivity. I initiated one-to-one meetings to understand individual challenges and aspirations. I then implemented recognition programs and tailored incentives based on personal motivators. I also ensured transparent communication and involved the team in decision making. As a result, we saw a significant improvement in team morale, a 30% increase in productivity, and reduced employee turnover. This answer demonstrates a thoughtful approach to leadership. The use of both intrinsic motivators like purpose and involvement and extrinsic motivators like incentives shows well-rounded motivation tactics. So what's the interviewer looking for? Intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, handling disengaged teams, and your leadership adaptability. Keywords to include would be recognition, incentives, empowerment, one-to-one meetings, transparent communication, team involvement, autonomy, or purpose-driven work. Some of the variations which you can expect are: how do you handle a disengaged team? What strategies have you used to boost team morale? Moving on to the next question. Describe a time when you had to manage a difficult team member. This could be your answer. In my last project, one team member consistently missed deadlines and showed a negative attitude. My task was to address this behavior without causing further disruption. I held a private meeting to discuss their performance and understand any underlying issues. I provided constructive feedback and offered support and training. The team members' performance improved significantly, and they eventually became one of the most reliable and positive contributors. This response shows emotional intelligence and a constructive leadership approach. Rather than escalating the issue, the focus you have given is on improvement and support. So, what's the interviewer looking for in this type of questions? Conflict resolution, giving feedback tactfully, empathy, and coaching mindset. Some of the keywords you can include are one-to-one discussions, constructive feedback, coaching, behavior improvement, expectation setting, and performance monitoring. Variations to expect are: how do you deal with an underperforming team member? Tell me about a time when you addressed a behavioral issue. Moving on to the next question. How do you handle conflict within your team? This could be your answer. During a critical project phase, two key team members had a disagreement that affected the project. My task was to resolve the conflict and maintain team harmony. I facilitated a mediation session where each party could voice their concerns. I encouraged open communication and mutual understanding and guided them towards a compromise. The conflict was resolved amicably, and the team's collaboration improved, helping us meet our project deadlines. This response highlights a calm, process-oriented approach using mediation and communication to resolve conflict, which is a key skill in project leadership. So, what's the interviewer looking for? Ability to mediate and de-escalate conflict, use of structured resolution frameworks, focus on team harmony and deadlines. Keywords to include are mediation, open communication, active listening, compromise, conflict resolution frameworks, and constructive feedback. Variations to expect are: give an example of resolving workplace conflict. How do you manage disputes in a project team? Moving on to the next question. Can you give an example of how you develop your team members? This could be your answer. At my previous position, I noticed that team skill set did not fully align with the evolving project demands. My task was to enhance the team's capabilities and prepare them for future challenges. I implemented a training program, organized mentorship pairings, and provided opportunities for attending workshops and conferences. As a result, the team's skill set expanded, increasing our capacity to take on more complex projects, and all the team members expressed high satisfaction with their personal growth. A great example of proactive leadership. This showcases talent development aligned to business goals, which interviewers love. So, what's the interviewer looking for? Commitment to learning and development, alignment of growth with business needs, use of training and mentorship tools. Keywords to include are training programs, mentorship, career development, learning culture, coaching, stretch assignments, and so on. Variations to expect are how do you ensure your team is constantly improving? What strategies do you use for upskilling your team? Moving on to the next question. Describe how you delegate tasks. This could be your answer. In a recent large scale project, effective delegation was crucial due to the project scope. I assessed each team member's strengths and workload before assigning tasks. I provided clear instructions and the necessary resources and set up a follow up system to monitor progress. This led to optimized workload distribution, timely completion of tasks, and the project was delivered ahead of schedule. This reflects a strategic approach to delegation, matching people to tasks, maintaining accountability, and ensuring delivery. So, what's the interviewer looking for with this question? A delegation as a leadership skill, awareness of team strengths and capacity, efficient task tracking and follow up. Keywords to include are task allocation, strengths assessment, workload balancing, clear instruction, follow up, accountability. Variations to expect are how do you decide what to delegate? Describe a time when delegation improved project outcomes. Moving on to the next question. How do you build team cohesion in a remote or distributed team? This could be your answer. In one of my projects, I managed a fully remote team across 3 time zones. To build cohesion, I introduced virtual team building activities, encouraged informal chats, and used tools like Slack for real time collaboration. Over time, we saw a visible improvement in trust and communication. So, what is the interviewer looking for in this question? They want to know how you drive connection and engagement in a remote setting. Call out how you build trust, promote informal bonding, and use tools effectively. Keywords to include are virtual team building, remote engagement, informal interactions, asynchronous collaboration, and collaboration tools. Variation to include are how do you engage remote teams? How do you build trust in distributed teams? Moving on to the next question. How do you manage underperformance in your team? This could be your answer. I had a team member struggling to meet deadlines. I initiated one to one conversation to understand the cause, then created a performance plan with clear goals and weekly check ins. With support and regular feedback, the performance improved and they gained confidence and accountability. So, what's the interviewer looking for with this question? They're assessing if you address issues early, use coaching and feedback effectively, and maintain team morale. Keywords to include are performance improvement, coaching, feedback, accountability, and corrective action. Variations to include are how do you handle low performers? How do you do when someone misses expectations? Moving on to the next question. Describe your approach to onboarding new team members. This could be your answer. I built a structured onboarding process that included a checklist, role-based training, and buddy pairing. I also scheduled weekly check-ins in the first month to support integration. As a result, new hires have ramped up much faster and reported higher clarity in their roles. So, what's the interviewer looking for in this question? They want to see if you can create clarity, accelerate productivity, and support early engagement. Keywords to include are onboarding checklist, buddy system, knowledge transfer, role clarity, and ramp up. Variations to include are how do you onboard new team members effectively? Moving on to the next question. How do you manage team dynamics when there are diverse personalities and work styles? This could be your answer. I once led a team with varying communication and work styles. I ran a workshop with the working styles, encouraged open discussions, and tailored tasks to individual strengths. This improved team alignment and reduced conflicts over time. So, what's the interviewer looking for? They're checking how you build cohesive, high performing teams that value diversity. Keywords to include are team dynamics, psychological safety, work styles, inclusivity, and adaptability. Variations to include are how do you handle personality clashes? How do you lead diverse teams? Moving on to the next question. How do you ensure your team meets project deadlines? I break projects into milestones, use dashboards to track progress, and hold daily stand-ups for alignment. I also address blockers early and manage stakeholder expectations proactively. This helps my teams consistently meet most of the planned deadlines. So, what's the interviewer looking for? Your planning, tracking, and course correction practices. Keywords to include are milestones, tracking, daily stand-ups, proactive risk management, and delivery focus. Variations to include are how do you ensure on-time delivery? Or how do you manage delays? This brings us to the end of the video. Hope you liked it. See you again in the next one. Thank you for watching.